Hey Eugene, how you
Hello,
doing?
hello. I'm doing pretty good.
Fantastic
But
and
not as
loud.
much voice as usual, but otherwise good.
Fair enough. Is it just me who's hearing that strange feedback, or can you hear that as well?
I don't hear anything.
Okay, if someone else in the chat can hear it as well, please let me know. But I just as I pressed the button to play the intro, I started having issues with my audio stuff. So we'll see how it goes. But what are you gonna do? Thanks for joining me. Thanks for
Yeah,
taking time out of your busy schedule. Yeah, Donald heard it as well. I hate when that happens. Um, Yes, I know you're really busy. I know you got a bit of a sore throat, so thank you for powering through. You're such a
yeah, absolutely.
see. It's still there. I can hear that this feedback. It's so weird. This honestly, this happens like every I don't know 15 or 20 of these, and it's really frustrating. It just doesn't go away. We'll hang in and we'll see how it goes. In the meantime, do you want to do an introduction about yourself so we all know who you are?
Sure. Oh, is Christian saying the sound is off for me?
Yeah, it's quite strange.
Are you able to hear me all right?
We can hear you, but it's kind of like this like audible like kind of like a rattle as you talk. It's quite strange.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Uh,
It was
yeah,
perfectly fine when we were talking earlier, and I don't know why it suddenly changed.
weird. I'll try to talk louder and we'll hope for the best. Maybe it's picking up something from my desktop. I don't know.
It's kind of like okay. Keep going. We'll see if it disappears.
We'll figure it out. Yeah,
We'll
sorry.
try it. No, good.
Yeah, so I I have two jobs, I guess, but I focus in on Power BI, and so I do consulting.
Mm.
So I help customers get started with Power BI and get up to speed, and then I also make training courses primarily for Pluralsight. And a lot of it's been on Power BI, but there was a period of time where they had enough of that content, and so did almost anything to pay the bills. So I have a course on Excel, a course on random streaming topics, so like Azure Event Hubs,
Mm.
Spark Structured Streaming, Kafka KSQL. And so, yeah, it's been 4.5 years that I've been working for myself and working this weird split career kind of thing.
That is quite well. It sounds quite. It keeps you entertained at least.
Yeah, right.
Just so you know that that thing in your voice is still there. I can kind of cope with it. It's kind of a little bit strange. It's kind of like every time you say something, there's like a intense reverberation. I don't know how to describe it.
That's
So
weird.
it
Let
is,
me,
and
I'll check.
it's probably nothing to do with you. It's just something that happens every now and then, and I don't understand why. And I've yet to actually figure out what the problem is or how I can fix it. I'm currently
Okay.
just clicking every single button that I have just to see
Okay.
if it fixes it.
Oh, I know. I see the problem. My life hates me. All right, is that better?
That's so much better. That's perfect.
Oh my goodness.
What
So
was that?
it was using my webcam microphone.
I wonder
Which
because before I said that you sounded quite quiet, and that must be what. But it's strange how before it was working, before we went live, it goes live.
maybe when it unmuted when it muted me for the
Maybe
that's so bizarre. All
that
right,
is
I'm gonna
bizarre.
let's see if I can permanently disable this because this makes me mad.
It's fantastic. Okay, this is a really good time to be totally honest, Eugene.
Yeah,
When you were talking before,
yeah.
I didn't listen to a single thing you said because I was trying to fix everything. But
No, it's fine.
I know you have two different jobs,
Yeah,
and you make.
I'll go over again. We're
I'm
good.
so sorry,
No,
but
you're fine. I'm also trying to make sure that this doesn't happen
yeah.
again because it's
Did
annoying.
did did you
I,
believe my fake answer? Did it sound like a convincing lie when I said that's interesting? Because I really proud of myself that I did
I'm
that.
pretty sure that like your limbic system was just automatically responding. So let's try it again now that we're
Yeah,
no longer distressed about my
absolutely.
audio. Um, so I've been working for myself for about 4.5 years,
Okay.
and I have two jobs. Let's see the pop quiz. What are they? What do I do?
One is making videos for stuff.
Yeah, I make videos for stuff for people.
Yeah,
So
and
I
another one is can I say company names? I can say company names, right?
yeah, that's fine.
You know, one is making videos and content for plural site.
There you go. All right, I'll give you credit. Yeah. So I do consulting, and so I do consulting on Power BI, and that's been my core focus. And then I make videos for Pluralsight, although they've been going through a lot of restructuring lately. So I'm hoping by the end of the year to maybe start selling my own courses and that sort of thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
That sounds really interesting. I mean, I had a look, and you've got a lot out there. You've done
at least a dozen, probably I think 13.
yeah, and I was kind of watching your advanced introduction
Oh yeah, the
to
oxymoron,
DAX.
the jumbo shrimp of
Yeah,
DAX.
yeah, yeah. just skimmed, to be honest, because I didn't have a lot of time when I was just preparing. But I really like it, and I like it. I really enjoy the way you were kind of presenting and talking through it and stuff. So I'm sure if you did decide to go down that route, you'd be wildly successful. However, I've got to say, when you joined the call today, when you switched your webcam on, the level of disappointment that I felt that you weren't joining from like a car boot or like under the
Sure.
stairs
Trunk of
or
my car, some
yeah,
sort of
yeah, yeah,
confined space.
exactly. Yeah. I
That's
mean,
understandable.
I try my best to not be offended by that, but I appreciate it anyway. You know, the fact that you're just there. I mean, if now like the guys in the cube come and try and drag you away, that would really like be a perfect situation.
Yeah, I'm hoping I think they're getting ready for build, so I don't think they're anywhere near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or
And
anything
maybe
like
just
that.
to give context to what I just said, in case someone's listening to this and have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm being some kind of random fool. So you do make,
I've
I
started
do,
doing TikToks, and I've been doing really weird, goofy ones.
they're
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
They're so good.
It's a learning experience, right?
Yeah.
Because so basically, what happened was, again, Pluralsight got bought by private equity 2 years ago, and I'm sure you're aware of all the layoffs that started happening late last year.
Yeah.
Well, they hit Pluralsight, and so there was an impact to how much authors got paid. I won't go into the exact details, but it basically got to the point where, okay, trying to do Pluralsight full time just wasn't sustainable.
Mm,
And so I figured, okay, if I'm going to start selling my own stuff, I need to start ramping up the marketing kind of piece.
makes sense.
And so a lot of it's experimentation. It's funny, I had no particular interest in TikTok, but I hired a part-time marketing assistant in her 20s, and she's
Wow.
like, "Have you considered TikTok?" And I'm like, I aged visibly like 20 years. Um, but it, it's weird because it's not the type of content I consume, because it feels like eating a piece of
Mm,
candy all the time.
mm,
But it's a really good learning experience of like, okay, well, how do you get to the point and how do you engage people? So
mm.
it's a fun experiment, and it's one I'm hoping to continue. She wants
Absolutely.
me to do like two. The shower curtain is going away. To reply to Christian, the shower curtain is going away in the next month. I have ordered a door. It is coming.
I love that.
So correction.
A very good spot though. Even if Eugene is not under the table, still he's keeping the shower curtain.
Yes, my office door is a shower curtain, sadly.
Why not?
But yeah, so she
Yeah.
encouraged me. She wants me to do like 2 TikToks a week, and I'm like,
Wow.
so yeah, definitely experimenting with that.
That's actually, I find this whole concept, the topic, quite interesting because I think it's something that I've tried to avoid for quite some time. Uh,
Sure.
I mean, like, you know, doing different stuff, like engaging and seeing what different types of content people will watch and
Right.
consume. And to my detriment, I know that basically if I did it, it would be better. But I've been like, yeah, okay, I can't bother, like whatever. And I literally, after my live stream last week, I was with them in J Park, you know, we were talking about, because he does a lot of like LinkedIn type stuff, and
Right.
we were talking afterwards about like the best way to do stuff, content. He was like, oh, you should try this, you should try that. And I was like, okay. I mean, the stuff that I always refuse to do is kind of like have a YouTube thumbnail, which is basically like me kind of doing like, and having like a white line around my stuff. I just refuse flat to ever do that.
Right,
Um,
but like the infinite monkeys with like camcorders have determined through A/B testing, like that's what people respond to, I
exactly,
guess.
exactly. And I know it's my detriment. I know the fact that I could get more whatever interactions and stuff.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're really embracing this stuff with the TikTok, because I have zero, like, I don't look at TikTok at all.
Right.
And that's of course, but I say this with no disrespect, of course.
No, none taken.
Um, and when I see the sort of, I mean, because I'm 40, my consumption of TikTok is basically the ones that people post on Twitter, right?
Yep. Yep. Same.
So it's interesting, but I mean, you have like, is it like Miss Excel? I mean, she was wildly successful on TikTok, right?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, according to Wired, like I think she's made at least $1 million.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they did an interview with her in an article,
Hmm.
and yeah, no, she's wildly successful.
Hmm.
But like, it's so hard to tell, you know, how much of that is network effects or luck, and how much is just volume. It's definitely doable, but I think you're right. You have to decide on the journey to being an influencer. What do you lose along the way? Because like for me, I struggle with some of that too, where
Hmm.
okay, a lot of these formats run directly counter to like good instructional design. The
Hmm.
things that get clicks is not the same thing that
Yeah.
will help teach people. And so
Absolutely.
the ideal solution I've said before is like if I could throw the learner in a Faraday cage and have them just watch a video for an hour, that would be great.
Yeah.
But since I don't have that option, how can I like add a little bit of sugar to make the medicine go down and avoid suddenly just selling like candy with no nutritional content whatsoever?
Yeah. I mean, that's essentially what marketing is, right? It's basically saying, everyone, look at me, what I do this stuff, and then come and take it
Sure.
further from that, you know? This is actually what I thought when I first saw the Miss Excel stuff, and I was like, really, do people learn Excel? Can you learn Excel that way? And then I kind of realized they probably don't. It probably gets their attention, and then they go to her courses and stuff, and then that kind of stuff. It's like a bait, essentially. Look, I know this cool stuff, and then if you maybe, I don't know, or maybe I'm just old, man.
I think it can work for like tips and tricks pretty well, which is a
Yeah.
lot of what she does, right?
That's true.
So I mean, how many like random hotkeys do the Office products have that we don't know about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
I think
I can see that.
you could do one for Power BI that would basically just be right click on everything that exists, because there will be something hidden that you just don't know about.
Yeah, right.
I mean, the number of times I didn't know it existed. Yeah, right click, it'll be there. You'll see something.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, at least so far, again, I haven't done a lot of TikToks, but a lot of it seems for me is just, okay, this is good. This is not good for explaining a complex topic, but it's good for bringing awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of people don't know that, okay, DAX is making these hidden daytime tables or there's a blank row or whatever. And so a lot of times what you can do is like have a link in the description of like, here's what you want to, here's some more information.
Yeah.
Christian has a question. Are TikToks bringing more consulting gigs? No, not in the slightest.
Not yet. Not yet.
I would bet money that they will not in the next year. I mean, so I have occasionally gotten consulting work, rarely from Pluralsight, but like, you know, I think 1,000 to 2,000 different people see my courses every month. TikTok and stuff, like in theory, it'd be nice to make an on-ramp like that, but I just, it's hard to expect that, like, because with consulting, you have to build trust and confidence in the person. And like, how do you do that in 30 seconds? I don't know. I don't know how that meshes.
You do it from the boot of a car. That's right, the trunk of a car, and then that's how you.
They're like, that guy has a hybrid Elantra, so he's got some money.
It's it's about, it's about showing dedication to the cause, mate. You know what I mean? It's like it's really it's thinking outside the box and other management style things that people call about. What?
Yeah, Kurt brought up. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
Got banned for the first time in personal advice. Yeah, it's true, it did.
Yeah, well, so the funny thing is, I generally operate under the assumption that at some point a social media network starting with a T is going to get banned or fall apart. We just don't know which one, right? But at the same time, like, there's this tendency for other social media corporations to try and get on the bandwagon. Like they did that with Snapchat stories or whatever they're called. And now they're doing that with short form content. So YouTube has YouTube Shorts, Instagram has Instagram Reels. So even if like Congress in the United States says we're banning TikTok, there's still going to be those other platforms, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, no, right now it's kind of a scattershot approach. Like if you go to look at my like link tree, you'll see I'm all over the place, and
that makes sense.
Consolidate at some point.
My goal, which will never happen, was basically to at some point get everyone to go back to Tumblr, because it's awesome. It's such a good. I mean, basically it's awesome for videos. It's awesome for photographs. It's open for short form, long form. It's for links. It's got everything. But the downfall of social media is that like no one uses it, which when it comes to social media kind of takes the social part away. So it's just basically
talking media.
Yeah, it's just like talking to the thin air, which is fun really. You kind of want a little bit of
some interaction,
bit of back and forth. That's kind of the point of what you do there. Just going back to this, thanks coming from Christian. Loved the video about the compounding charges video report. Thank you first of all for watching the video. But I find that this is what I find really funny. It's all about short consumable content that people watch a high percentage of, and I'm like, I'm gonna make a 20-minute video. You will sit there and you will watch me code for 20 minutes, and it's just like I don't know how to make that shorter to be honest. So it's just not. But what are you gonna do? All good.
Yeah, it's hard.
Anyway, other than creating videos and stuff, but one final thing, I do still maintain that the video of you under the table is the best Power BI video that's ever been made. Like, just coming up with it, it also had this really like Harry Potter vibes to it as well. Like
Yeah,
bursting
right.
under the staircase was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I when I was in college, I experimented a bit with photography, and it was really fun to try and find different angles. Or it's been overdone
Mm,
now, but you like Photoshop multiple copies of yourself on the same picture, but just
mm.
trying to do stuff that's different
This
for
is,
sure.
I mean, this is what I wish I was better at, and this is why when I speak to also Kurt sometimes as well, like what Kurt produces and like the story behind it is also just like fantastic. So when you see someone doing something that's different in it and like actually provides information, it's always very enjoyable. But on that, we can go to a question from Kurt because
Yeah.
he's right there, and we shall see what the question is, which is, what's your
Yeah.
dream tech
Dr-
content if you had unlimited
dream
budget and
tech.
time?
Well, it sounds like a simple question, but it's kind of a weird one, right? Because like, what am I optimizing for? I mean, I think if we're talking true dream, I teach people how to make like video games because that was something I was interested in like high school and college, and then I started programming for a living, and so I was no longer interested in it.
Mm,
But but taking a step back, what I get a lot of joy from is okay, how can I take this confusing, complicated topic and make it simple and understandable? And so I've done a 10-minute lightning talk on Power BI licensing.
oi.
Uh, I'm trying to learn more about Azure Synapse, which is just a mess,
Mm.
to be honest, in terms of like just messaging.
I'm
Going,
still my goal is to try and understand Power Apps licensing, to be honest, and also Power Pages. I don't know what any of that is. Sometimes I was
yeah,
like, I'll have a look, and it's like, oh, it's €1,500 a month. I was like, I don't know, that can't be right. I'm giving up.
yeah.
Anyway, sorry,
But
I interrupted you there.
no, it's fine. So like, I think that would be what I would enjoy teaching on the most, but a lot of the process is content agnostic, right?
Okay.
A lot of it is trying to figure out analogies that can help people, starting from who's my audience and what's their pain point. Because like one of the things that tech educators do that's an issue that like Pluralsight is very clear, don't do this. They call it left to right teaching.
Mm,
So you get up a piece of software like Power BI and you're like, well, over on the left is the file menu and then the transform data menu. You just go from
mm,
left to right describing everything. And at no point do you tell people why they care. Like you assume they care and you just describe things.
yeah.
So a lot of the process is the same. And then
Mm,
for Synapse, people just pull up the Microsoft architecture diagram instead
mm,
and then go from left to right.
yeah.
So yeah,
Oh, it's true. Kurt seems happy with your answer. I
good.
agree. Good answer. Good. You see, you passed the test. Well done.
Oh, good.
I'm
Do I
very,
get do I get the budget now? Do I get the
yeah. You can just, he's going to transfer. Just give me your PayPal, and it'll send that right over. Right over.
awesome?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, what I was going to mention before, which I kind of digressed as I
Sure.
want to do. Are you pumped, excited for MS Build?
Yeah, I am actually excited. So like eh, if you look at all of the high level Microsoft staff, they're all saying, okay, we've got big stuff for Power BI, big stuff for
Mm,
Synapse.
mm,
But also like for me, I'm hoping that this is a chance for me to get in on the ground floor with everything that's happening with Synapse, because if I want to start making my own content, like that's a
mm,
great time to be involved, right? Especially
yeah.
because I've got the issue is I have a non-compete for each course. So if I made course X for Pluralsight, I cannot make the same course for myself or Udemy or whatever.
Oh, right, okay.
And so the nice thing
Mm,
about Synapse is I've never touched it,
yeah.
never done anything with it.
Good point,
Uh,
actually.
but but yeah, so I mean,
So all these
there,
new things that might be happening, that may be happening. I love this comment, Andy, in here. Trust me,
right,
I'm really just building up at that level where I'm going to say things that where you're just going to sit there. I can't say
right.
anything.
I'm just gonna stare at the screen
Yeah,
and then move on. I'll deflect.
like regarding things that may or not have been posted on Twitter at some point today. It's like,
Right.
don't know, didn't happen.
Yeah,
And yeah,
right.
but
No.
this is the thing. As a non MVP, I have so much
Oh,
more
you
freedom.
can speculate whatever you want.
It might mean I never ever actually become an MVP because of what I say, but I can't lose what I don't have. So I could just say, I don't know, maybe I just
You
didn't
can
get it.
start applying the word power to random nouns like power lawn chair, whatever, and that's fine. Whereas like, you know, as an MVP, like I can't even joke about stuff because
Mm,
like there's a feature that's out in public preview so I can talk about it, but like um quick measures suggestions where they're using GPT-3 to power like,
mm-hmm.
hey, you want some DAX? Um and so you know, there's a risk that at some point you independently come out with the idea of like, oh, let's apply AI to DAX, and then you'd be like, wait, what if they're working on that? Right? What
Yeah.
if they like they formed a partnership with OpenAI, right?
Mm,
So for
yeah.
all we know, they're going to add AI to Microsoft Access. Who knows? That's I'm
Would that be
pretty
like
confident that's not one, right?
as soon
But
as you open it, the eye just tells you to close it again and just again,
yeah,
never, and never
right.
open, never open it again.
Yeah, it's like I think you meant you wanted this URL, but like so that's the thing is like I can't even joke about stuff because you never know what they're making. Kurt had a question about the
The
non-compete.
non-compete, yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, so it's not as clear as I would like, but it's on a course by course basis, right?
Mhm.
So basically, I can't make the same topic that would meaningfully interfere in the marketplace with that course, right? So I have a course on on-premises data gateways. I could
Mm.
probably make a course that had like a brief section that talked about data gateways, but I definitely can't make one that's all about on-premises data gateways.
But how
So
that seems like it get really general. I mean, does that mean if you make one about DAX, you can't make your own course about DAX? That's very, very general. I mean, and it's
yeah, I mean,
strange because there are so many that there is already other courses. You know, it's
yeah,
interesting.
I mean, so they, I mean, it's like any other kind of publisher. They don't want you making content that's competing with the stuff you made for them.
Mm.
And so, you know, I have some clarification from Pluralsight about what counts and what doesn't. Um, but you know, there is the like, if I want to sell stuff online, then I have to be very, very certain that it's different.
Yeah.
There's they do own the content that I make for them. It's then the contract is considered like a work for hire or whatever the term is.
Mm.
There's some carve outs and things. So if I like, because some of my courses were based on presentations I did before, right?
Mm.
So I still have some amount of rights. Um, but yeah, I can present at conferences. I can present at user groups. That's never been an issue.
Yeah.
And that in those cases, I just can't like directly copy like the slides and stuff
Mm.
from it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Then.
So I mean,
Sense.
because those aren't going to be competing.
Yeah.
But I always get like a little nervous whenever like
Mm.
a conference wants to like sell the videos and stuff.
Oh, okay.
They used to have they used to have it specifically a carve out for tech conferences.
Mm.
But yeah, so that's why if I want to sell my own stuff, I need to be like really certain this isn't
Yeah.
something I've done for them.
I understand. I'm really proud that Kurt's using this basically because he's procrastinating on a deadline. I think basically if I can help someone procrastinate, I've done quite an important role there, to be honest, because
Absolutely.
yeah, because everyone knows that the closer you get to a deadline without having finished the work, the high quality the work will be. That's basically that's how I got through university, to be honest. Computer games
Yeah.
until like the day
Right.
before the deadline, and then just knock something out.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm turning in fewer things at like 11:30 p.m. But actually, what you should look into search for like structured procrastination. It's the idea that you still procrastinate, but you make sure that what you're procrastinating with is something valuable. So you're like you end up instead of video games, you have a very clean house because you
Okay.
should be working on a
Yeah,
project
yeah.
or something like that.
No, I didn't do that. I was just a lazy student. I was playing. There was
Yeah.
a football manager game called Championship Manager, and I think it's called Football Manager now, or whatever. I spent just like days playing this game, just like, and it was all like a competition with friends. Just like it was so like 2001 or something. It was like how far in the future did you got? And you go, oh yeah, I'm up to season 2050, and I'm up to season. It's like yeah, okay. At least I know someone else is actually procrastinating harder than I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just where it goes. Anyway, sorry. Structured procrastination is how I get most stuff done, according to Andy, which is I like it. It's nice when you find out you're not alone in your
Yeah.
kind
Just
of
always have a bigger and scarier commitment. Like I've for some reason agreed to write a book on Power BI, and so
Oh, really?
yeah, that
Oh, that's
may
cool.
have been a mistake. We'll see. Um,
How's it gone?
uh, slower than I would like, but it's coming along.
Is it like a
I
general topic or is it specific?
no, it's Power BI in a month of lunches with Manning. So as long as I don't screw it up, maybe by the end of the year or something, you'll see that.
Power BI and a bunch of lunches.
No, in a month of lunches.
Ah, okay.
So it's a series by them. Like there's been other ones that are in the month of lunches
Okay.
series, but the idea is that it's like 20 some chapters, and every
Mm-hmm.
chapter is like, here's a specific thing to do. So the idea is that you're like reading the book
Hmm.
during your lunch break or something
Oh,
like that.
okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's quite a cool idea. Oh, good luck with it, mate. I hope it goes. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited because the editor is fine with my like silly, irreverent kind of style. So there'll be a lot of humor and everything because like most tech books are just miserable to read through. Like they're
Yeah.
very difficult.
I always I find it astonishing. I mean, I know everyone learns differently, so full respect to that. But when people say, "Oh, I just finished reading like the complete guide to DAX or something," I'm like, "You read it from cover to cover." Like for me, that's the same as like just reading a dictionary.
Right? They should have like on the last page some sort of like click this link to win an award kind of thing. Some sort of little Easter egg hidden in there.
Yeah, exactly. It took me like, I mean, when it's like an online course, to be honest, I could say I'm better. I'm still not great at that. Like it took me
Right.
so long to get through the master and tabular, the SQL BI one. That
Mhm.
took a long time to get through that. And I started like some Databricks course in November. And my excuse was that I stopped because my entire family, we got really sick for like 3 weeks a month. But I could have like gone back to it, you understand, but I just didn't. It's just, I think I'm just one of these people who just start things and say, yeah, I've learned a few things, that'll do, and then move on to the next thing. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not the best, but I get little bits of information from different places and then trying to combine them together to say it's anything meaningful. But
Yeah,
often it
I think
isn't.
it's like one of those like one of those like scavenger crabs or hermit shell crabs where you just keep piling stuff on your back and you're like, this is a home, this is a house, this
Yeah,
counts.
yeah. What's
Yeah.
what's your the thing that you kind of always try to learn but never get around to doing? So everyone has this backlog of stuff, you know.
Oh, so I will never feel like I understand dimensional modeling. Like I know it well enough to get by. And I've done like work with it so I can explain to you why star schema is better for Power BI. But the moment people start like if my life depended on telling you the difference between a junk dimension, a role playing dimension, the various different types of slowly changing dimensions, like all of that from like the 90s, I would be out. I'd be the Did you ever watch like Monty Python and the Holy Grail? I'd be
Yeah.
the yeah, the I'd be the guy that gets launched off the bridge because he got a question wrong, right? Um,
Class.
Donald Parrish is currently lying. It's No one has ever finished the Kimball book. It's not
I
that's
just finished the Kimmel book from cover
No one
last
has done
week.
that.
Wow. That sounds like a grim week.
Yeah.
But congratulations if it's true.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man. Well, again, if you choose to read that sort of book and you can't find, I mean, even stuff like I've got like on my desk these like data visualization books and stuff. I don't read them cover to cover. Like I'll just read them, put them down, take some ideas, and then like 2 weeks later, read like not even the next chapter. Like I'll read like a few chapters further on and then go back and I kind of like hop around. I don't know. I just got a terrible attention span.
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge for me as I get older and as I get more mature in my career is like the marginal utility of everything I learn gets
Mm,
less and less, right?
mm,
Because like when you're starting out, literally anything you bump into is useful information. Um,
no,
but at the point now, it's like a lot of the consulting work that I do is for small businesses, and so a lot of times it's the same project over and over again.
mm, mm.
Um, and so it's hard to say
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
okay, is how much marginal benefit
Mm,
am I going to get from reading that Kimball book?
yeah,
Right? Is it going
yeah,
to help me charge an extra $5 or $10 an hour? Is it going to help me do this a little bit faster? And like
yeah.
a lot of times it's hard to tell, but it feels like the marginal benefit gets smaller and smaller
Mm.
because I know enough to get the job done.
That's a
So
fair point, actually.
it's hard.
That's a really good point. The knowing enough to do a decent or a good job really shouldn't. but often just brings down your motivation to kind of keep learning, which is why I was very like I mentioned like last week I'm changing jobs really soon, and it's not like I never stop learning. I always just like look for different stuff that like this is relevant. This blog post I'll read that, understand that. But the kind of like you have this like the peaks and troughs, right? Where you kind of
Sure.
and then you level up. So it's nice to kind of motivate yourself to like really go into something that's completely new, like a completely different structure, and it really it's a lot. It can like be quite overwhelming sometimes, but you feel good about it after like a few
It
months.
it's refreshing to feel like you're making progress on something for
Yes,
sure.
exactly.
And like I don't know what type of job you have been, but
Mm,
like when you work for yourself and you do consulting, you have this paradox of okay, when I had a regular job, my boss would give me stuff that was outside of my comfort zone, but I had to get it done, so I would learn
yeah,
the thing.
yeah,
Whereas instead, it's like, well, I don't want to consult on stuff that's outside of my comfort zone
yeah,
because I don't
exactly.
want to mess it up or I don't feel comfortable charging, say, like
Mm,
150, $200 an hour for something that I don't really know.
mm,
And so you have to find ways of like, well, how am I going to force myself to learn, like, say, Azure Data Factory? I've never touched Azure Data Factory.
yeah,
Well, how do I force myself to learn enough that I feel comfortable telling people, yes, pay me money to do Azure Data Factory for you,
fair
right?
point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've never, like I said, I've never done any like external consulting. It's always been employed like within the company, which is what my next role will be as well. So I can well imagine that when you're working as a consultant, going for different places quite frequently, it's a very different experience because you quite frequently encounter things that you hadn't encountered before. So that does make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll see. So I'm just going to go through the couple
that's
of
fine.
comments
Yeah,
here.
Kurt had a question a while back.
I just this thing from Donald first of all. You said you read the book in a few days, just so you say that he did. That's actually a very valid thing to do, just to read something or do something to say you actually have done it.
Oh,
You know,
sure.
it's like I read it,
Well,
it's done.
and then the nice thing potentially is you find out that maybe you didn't have as many gaps in your understanding as you thought, right?
That's also true. Yeah, that's nice when that happens. There's always an assumption that everyone else knows so much more than you do, and then when you read something, it's like, oh, I'm kind of on the level that I wanted to be. Sorry, did you say you saw a question for that you
Oh,
wanted?
Kurt had a question about making
Ah,
games.
okay, yeah, I saw that. Thank you very much. Eugene, you mentioned you wanted to make games. Have you ever made one or tried something small?
I've so the only time I've had any success is when I've done game jams. So these are like volunteer, totally optional competitions.
Mm,
One of the most popular ones is called Ludum Dare. But there was another one that's still out there, I think, called Pi Week. And
okay,
so Ludum Dare, you basically have a weekend to make a video game almost entirely from scratch. I think you're allowed to use game
cool.
engines,
Hmm.
but otherwise, it's something like
Like
Snake.
Snake, have it
Yeah,
there.
uh, that is an option.
It's quite cool.
Maybe the Tabular Editor folks should have a competition of who can make the best games. So with Ludum Dare, you have a weekend. You can use a game engine, but otherwise, all your assets have to be from scratch. So any music, any of that kind of stuff. And then Pi Week, you have a week, and you have to use Python.
Mm,
And it's fun because, like you were talking at some point about social media, like it's a very social event. You get to
mm,
see what other people are doing. You see their
yeah.
progress. Like you're all just doing together. So I've probably done that a handful of times. Made some very simplistic games, and it was always a lot of fun. Um, but again, it's just like I don't know. It's a lot harder when you're in your 30s to be like, hey, I'm gonna spend a weekend doing nothing but programming, even
Mm,
though
yeah,
that's what I do for a job.
yeah. And also, I mean, it depends. People's lifestyles are different at different times. I mean, for me,
Sure.
I started. I mean, I didn't come into the whole data type world until I was like 30, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was a time I think we had a we had my daughter then, so she was very very young, but
Oh, sure.
she was a really easy baby. She slept all the time and stuff, so I could do all my like whatever work until 4 o'clock in the morning. But you tend to do get at that time where it's kind of like at first you're like, oh yeah, this is cool, it's my job, but it's also like kind of my hobby. But then it gets overwhelming, so we kind of like working it, and then the evening doing more about it. It can be like very like, but I need like some time away from it. So
Yeah,
it's a lifestyle thing.
these days I'm more interested in like things that get me away from computer screens.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
during the pandemic, I got into like miniatures gaming. Um,
missing
I've
out.
also I just admit this publicly now, but I LARP, I live action role play,
All
and
right,
so
cool.
I just go out in the woods and beat people with foam swords, and it gets me away from computer screens. Um,
I used to
so
do the miniatures, the Warhammer stuff.
yeah,
Warhammer 40,000, I think it was actually.
yeah, yeah,
Really good
that's the
fun.
biggest one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I was very, very bad at painting them. However, I have no artistic skills in my body at
I've
all.
gotten a little bit better. I'm trying to get back into it. The there was this great video when the pandemic happened that came out right away called Spaceship U. And the
Mm,
idea was, okay, imagine that you're stuck on this remote spaceship and you got to survive. All right, well, you need to make these different stations. So you
mm,
need a workstation, you need a rest station, and you got to keep it clean, and you need a creative station.
mm,
And so there was something comforting of like, okay, everything's on fire and I can't control any of it,
mm.
but I can make this plasma gun look really cool. So I'm going to do that. Um, and so
Yeah.
that was helpful.
Mm.
Kurt was asking about any great LARP
Yeah,
stories.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The funniest thing is my husband tried to get me to play,
Mm,
and I'm like, this is too dorky. If I go, you're gonna break up with me because it's too dorky. And then we got married, and he's like, so LARP is in a week.
mm.
You said forever, so we're good. You're going. I'm like, okay. Um, and I I had a lot of fun. I generally played as a healing character because that was the most effective thing you could do at like level 1.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, just a lot of socialization.
So what?
A lot of
They're actually like it's a points based thing as well. You actually acquire points and move up levels and
yeah,
stuff.
every time. Yeah, so I mean, it varies a lot by system.
This is awesome.
But generally, you get a certain amount of experience points every event you attend,
Okay.
and so it's a lot like it functions like a tabletop RPG, but you're out in the woods,
Mm,
and so you get skills and attributes, and it just depends on the system.
that's so cool.
Um, yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's just it's fun sometimes when the game rewards you for being creative because
Mm,
the default, depending on the system, tends to be what we call like murder hobos, right? You're just roaming around destroying everything, and so occasionally you can like the goblins you were supposed to go beat up and kill.
mm.
You might like, well, let's try and talk with them first, and that kind of stuff. So it was always fun when you could like
That's
find
really
your way, talk your
interesting.
way out of a situation.
I mean, I've really only ever encountered this like concept in like a few movies when people like do this. So I've never really even thought about the different like the
Well,
experience of what it may
so
involve. You know?
so the problem is like the stereotype is like some guy just shouting like magic missile. But I mean, in reality, it's this blend of physical activity because you're sword
Mm,
fighting with foam swords. It's still physical. You're getting a
mm,
heart rate up.
mm,
It's very social, but there's elements of improv and role playing. And yeah, if you're a nerd, you probably enjoy thinking about, okay, what am I gonna spend my next experience points on? What skill am I gonna get?
mm.
Whatever. So it's just you're out away from computer screens.
I
It's very
had
nice.
this mental image now of like Matthew Roche just rocking up with his sword. And everyone's like, Matthew, put the real sword away, okay? It's just
Yeah.
like this proper broadsword, whatever he uses.
Yeah, right. Well, it's funny because he could probably get away with latex swords. So they do make latex swords that look fairly real, but you're as long as you don't use the point, you're not going to hurt anybody.
That's fair enough. Yeah, don't
Yeah.
use the pointer chip. Which is probably quite a solid rule, to be honest. Yeah, I roleplay. One second, bring this from Kurt again.
Oh yeah.
Role-playing improv games are great for flexing social muscles. That you do things like run. Sorry, to do things
No.
like present, run, workshops, interact, and stakeholders. Yeah, okay. I love he's merging those two things into one there. Your social LARPing and also workshops, interacting, stakeholders. That could be a cool activity, actually. If you run some kind of workshop, you run a workshop and then you have an afternoon activity. Instead of going to a bar somewhere, you can just go like LARPing.
Sure, right.
Cool, man. Love it. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. Have you ever tried this game that apparently is the fastest growing game in the US? And I've forgotten the name of it. It's like something like, what's it called? It's a combination of like tennis and something. Oh man, I shouldn't have started the question without actually knowing what the name of the game was. I've heard it a
Not
few times,
familiar.
like the fastest growing game in the US, and it's kind of like a strange combination, I think, of like soccer and tennis or something weird like that. I don't know.
No,
No.
I've never heard of this. I am a fan. Oh,
Pickleball. Thank you, pickleball.
okay. I've heard of it, but no,
Okay.
I don't know much about it. I will say all the Nordic folk will be happy. My favorite yard game is Cube, Kubb.
Okay.
Um,
No
it,
idea.
yeah, you're like what?
Yeah.
Um, how do I explain it? It's similar to like horseshoes or cornhole where you're throwing these things and you're trying to hit something, but there's a back and forth because you have these like five towers. These,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's wooden like rectangles, and you
Ah,
get to
okay.
steal if you knock them down.
Hmm.
You steal them and they're on your forces, and they have to knock down all of your stuff.
Hmm.
Um, so it's a little bit more back and forth, like Tides of War kind of stuff.
I think I've seen this played in a few parks in Berlin. To be honest, I've seen these like rectangular, like wooden cubey block things, and people throw things at them.
Yeah.
It's one of the things. Okay, when like it's kind of
Nope.
like
There's a big one in the middle that's the king, and they're throwing dowel rods.
okay, maybe I don't know. People
Yeah.
parks in Berlin, you like lots of games get played. Like there's like
Sure.
pool and stuff. And the strangest one that appeared was not so much a game, but like an activity, I suppose. It's probably like 7 years ago. It's less so now, but I mean, people just started like showing up at parks with like tight ropes. And they would like
Mm.
attach them around trees, and they'd be like walking along these, like balancing on tight ropes. I'm like, where did this come from? It's like a park activity. It was so bizarre. But yeah, I don't know. It's a fun game to play. So nice.
Cool.
I'll if I ever get a chance to play this game, Cube,
KUBB. Yeah.
Kubb.
Yeah.
I'll
Just look
check
for it.
it
I don't know. I like it a lot. Just don't try to take it onto an airplane. Apparently, the 1.5 foot dowel rods count as weapons. So
out.
learn that the hard way.
It's a stake in case of the vampires kind of all
Yeah. Right.
start to appear. Fantastic. What is shuffleboard? I've heard of this, but it's like again,
Oh,
we were amazed by the shuffle.
stereotypically, it's a game old people play on cruise ships.
Okay.
Because the idea is like I'm gonna get it wrong. I'm gonna butcher it, but like you have this big long stick with a round part, and you're pushing this like disc on the like waxed wooden floor,
Kind of like
and you're
curling,
trying.
but with no ice.
Yeah, pretty much, and you're trying to get it to land somewhere. Um, but I mean, at least here in the United States, it's associated with like old folks,
Okay.
like in their retirement on cruise ships.
I love the number of games that I only know about because of like films and stuff. And
Right.
it's bizarre. The classic one also, this is like, I know it's like, but lacrosse, for example, I'd never heard of it until I watched, when I was a kid, I was watching American Pie. And then
Sure.
Steve Stifler played lacrosse, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" And then all these people with these sticks and like throwing this ball around. So there was when I moved to Germany, people were talking about handball, and I'm like, "Handball, like when you play football and someone touches the ball with their hands, a handball." No, no, the game handball. I'm like, what the fuck is handball? And there is a game
Right.
called handball that I'd never heard of. It's huge in Germany. It's just basically like people with the ball throwing the ball, and it's
Right.
just I don't know huge in Germany. But apparently England has a team, but it's rubbish. So fair enough. So kind of like ice hockey in that regard as well. I don't know. But we have some fans of shuffleboard. Kurt likes shuffleboard. First of all, I don't know. Someone misses croquet. I'm not sure that's a
D-
joke or
d-
not. I've played croquet a couple of times in my life. Croquet, this is the most gentle English look. Have you seen croquet?
Yeah, oh yeah, right.
Okay,
I
fair
mean,
enough.
it
So
it it seems very much like a game an aristocrat would play,
yeah, it does, doesn't it?
right?
Yeah,
It's like, oh man, anything too exertive, that's for the common folk.
yeah.
How about we just gently hit a ball with a mallet and have it go through a little hoop?
While you're drinking some kind of expensive drink, and I'm not sure, like I don't know, what
Yeah,
a
right. Pinky
martini.
out.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Trying to get anyone to also understand cricket is also quite a big deal for an English person. It's
Yeah,
just like zero chance. So it's just one of these things. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked with like random games and stuff. I apologize for that, mate.
it's all good.
Digression is something that I don't do intentionally, but it just it does lead me in this direction of random stuff. Anyway, let's get back to talking about data Power BI, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, is that okay? I'll ask you a very standard question, if that's okay. What thing do you wish every day existed that doesn't exist?
That I wish existed in like the
In
data
the
space.
data world, you understand, not like in the universe in general. That'd be like a very
Yeah, no,
broad question,
yeah,
even for me.
no, that's fair.
Yeah.
Ah, I'm trying to think because I'm not sure if there's like a particular. Oh no, okay. There's a thing that I wish exists, but it no longer affects me, so I really shouldn't care.
But you care for
But
other people because you're such a kind person, right?
no, I wish that we could use Power Query to import data into SQL Server. Like
Okay.
so, but I haven't had a need for that in 5 years, right? Because so Power Query is really good at things like XML and JSON and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, And so it would be great if there was some way to say, okay, I need to read from files in the SQL Server. Here's some Power Query code. I want you to run it every night. You can do that with SSIS. You can make a simple import kind of piece, but you can't do it with Power Query. I think they had started making some sort of SSIS package, and so like, yeah. Oh no, sorry, Donald. Maybe it is. Maybe I don't know. But like, there's so many times where like you don't. I am on a like a love-hate relationship with SSIS because when I explain to people the difference between Power Query and SSIS, I talk about the number of data types. Power Query has 5-ish data types, 9 if you count all the variations of date time. SSIS has 29, and it's all just like, well, it could be an int 1 byte, 2 byte, 4 byte, or 8, and it could be signed or unsigned. So we need 8 different data types so we can precisely recognize it. And so I compare it like the guy in like the really like stiff suit that's, freshly cleaned and everything. Whereas like, Power Query is out on the beach. It's got a Hawaiian shirt. It's just hanging out. Because I would work with SSIS and it was so obsessed with lineage. You would have a query and you would have a hard-coded string for a column. It's not coming from anywhere. It's just in the query. If you edit that string, you have to update the mapping because lineage ID 247 has changed. And so there's so many times that SSIS was just overkill, and you're just like, I just need to read the CSV dump that comes in once a week into SQL Server. But if they announced it, it wouldn't affect me anymore.
That's actually quite cool. I think also that would make me feel a more productive person at whatever job I'm doing as well, because the amount of stuff that you can do with Power Query.
Oh, yeah.
And I could also just do more for the team, because a lot of the data that, of course, you use with Power Query, you bring it into. Sorry, you want to say something?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say one of the, I think, underappreciated features of Power Query that maybe is underappreciated because it's aimed at business users is you can step through every step and see what the shape of the data is. To my recollection, you can't do that with SSIS. You have to like add a little like looker operation in between and all this kind of stuff. I mean, maybe there's other tools like that, but I don't know of any other data cleansing tool that lets you just step through and see at every step easily. Okay, here's what it looks like.
Exactly. No, it is awesome, to be honest. It also just kind of like, for me, it's also that kind of feels like a documentation thing as well. You click here and that's what's being done. And it's very, if you do properly, of course, I mean, change your steps, make sure that they're all named correctly and stuff, but to go through and kind of see the data transform one part at a time, it is quite cool. Power Query, I mean, Power Query brought me to the data world. Same with me, Power Query brought me to the data world. I was kind of struggling along with Excel files and whatnot, and discovered Power Query, and then went down that whole stretch of learning and stuff, which was very cool. You can add descriptions to document Power Query steps. Yes, yeah, for sure, exactly. This is exactly the thing. So yeah, that's a really nice idea. I've never heard that one before. So if it's been mentioned in the chat here, if it is one of the announcements that comes next week, I have no idea, of course. That would be very cool. We shall see. But if not, then maybe at some point in the future, because that just is just quite a nice idea. Eugene, I'm going to let you go, mate, because you're sounding not great, to be honest. I mean, that you sound wonderful. Don't get me wrong, but
no, I get it.
I can see your cough get worse. I really appreciate you coming, in spite of the fact that you clearly aren't 100%, and your voice is quite an important thing for a live chat. So I'm sorry if I've set your recovery back a few days.
No, it's all good.
One more thanks for joining everyone in the chat. Thank you for all your questions and making it more interesting, and all that kind of stuff, and for talking about LARPing and board games and whatever we're talking about, and for putting up with all my random digressions. I won't be back next week because I could say because I'm MS Bill. That's actually not true. It's because I arranged some goodbye drinks at my current job, because I forgot that it was MS Build. So you'll all know what's happening before I do, which is very upsetting for me. I'll be sitting there at my goodbye drinks with my phone on, reading all the tweets to see what's going on. Anyway, I'll stop talking now. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure. Eugene, thank you also. And I shall see everyone in a couple of weeks. Goodbye. Don't you wanna